When you talk about WWE, the first name that comes up to you, as great as Brock Lesnar is, and as great as everything he's done for the sport of professional wrestling, he's not the first person you think about when you say WWE.
What's up, everyone? Jose G here for Sportskeeda Wrestling, and next to me is the wrestling god, the current Impact World Champion, Moose. How are you today, Moose?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking your time to do this interview here at Sportskeeda. Man, you are having a hot year at the beginning of the year. You ended 2021 on a very high note, starting 2022 on a very high note. You recently had an interview on Lucha Libre Online, and you credited Scott D'Amore for Impact Wrestling's success. But what I want to know is, after you cashed in your contract on Josh Alexander, that pissed off a lot of people. But I looked at that as something clicked, something just made sense in Moose's mind. What clicked in your mind now in 2022 that, because you're on an entirely different level?
I wouldn't say something clicked. This like I've been the same guy for about the whole past year, and I think that was just. But I've never been in the main event picture. I've just been doing other things around, having different feuds with different guys like EC3 and Tommy Dreamer and Chris Sabin. But I've never been in that top position. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of times people don't really pay attention unless you're in that top main event picture. So once I did what I did to screw up Josh Alexander's dreams, and I won the Impact World title, people was like, "Oh my God, Moose actually did this." But I've been doing this for a while. It's just like, yeah. But it's, usually people don't tend to pay attention unless you're in that top row. So.
And that's awesome. And I think when you have, in the wrestling business, it's all about me. You got to do what you have to do in order to get to the top of the mountain, right. And you got to do even more to stay at the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. Your past match on Saturday, fantastic, against Morrissey and Matt Cardona. Great matchup, great storytelling, right. And nobody else in Impact can do it quite like you can. Right. But let's go back in time a little bit. You spent time in the NFL. That's about 7 years. You went from team to team. What was your transition like from NFL going into pro wrestling and now becoming world champion?
The transition was easy, man, because pro wrestling is something I've been in love with since I was 7-8 years old. Something I knew I wanted to be a part of when I got older, and I'm just lucky to be living my dreams right now. But the transition, I always feel like when you have a passion to do something, the transition to get to it is always going to be easy, and that's what it's been for me. And going back to the pay-per-view, I'm honored to share the ring with Morrissey and Matt Cardona, and I feel like Morrissey's story isn't told enough about his big redemption from the demons he had back a couple of years ago to where he's at now, and I think that's something that if he wants, it should be talked about more, because a lot of people can't change that like the way he has, and to now where he looks like $1 million and is looked at as a main event guy. That's, nothing but praises to him. And same thing with Matt, like Matt coming from the WWE where he was heavily underused there, and they looked at him like a mid-card, even lower than the mid-card, where now he's an Impact and he's showing the world that he could be a main event guy. He proved that at Hard to Kill with how he performed, which he did great as well, that he could be a main event guy, and I'm sure that the company is going to look at him and putting him in the main event role pretty soon. So I'm just happy I was able to share the ring with both those guys. Those guys are hell of a performers, and I can't see what happens next with all three of our careers.
Yeah, speaking of Morrissey, I spoke to Morrissey last year during WrestleMania week at WrestleCon, and we caught up a little bit, and I mentioned that he looks in amazing shape and everything. And he looks, even back then, he looked like he was in such a better place than he was, the previous year. So everything you said about Morrissey is 100% accurate. Let's talk about this big question, man. You've been on social media these last few days. Roman Reigns, Forbidden Door. I already know what the answer to most of these Forbidden Door questions is, but I'm going to ask you, when this match happens, because I'm going to be optimistic, where do you envision this happening, man?
I don't know. I really don't. If it happens, I don't know. But like, I'm a big believer about speaking things into existence.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I hope happens. I think. I mean, Roman Reigns, his resume speaks for himself. I mean, he is the face of WWE and has been the face of WWE for the last 5-6 years, maybe even longer, and he is undoubtedly one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I feel like I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I feel like I am the face of Impact Wrestling because I carry the Impact World title, and I think we both have different styles, and like they say, styles make fights, right? And with how good he is and how good I think I am, I think it will be nothing less than magic if we were to get in the ring together. But to answer your question, who knows what will happen or if it will even happen, but I hope it does, and I'm going to speak it into existence, and we'll see what happens if it does ever happen.
So a lot of fans have been asking me, why did Moose pick Roman Reigns and not Brock Lesnar? I mean, like, Brock Lesnar is very well accomplished, but you didn't mention his name, or nothing like that came out of your mouth. So what's your opinion on the current WWE Champion Brock Lesnar?
I mean, it's the same thing with him. I mean, I would love to get in the ring with him. I just picked, like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna go for the biggest guy in that level. And when you talk about WWE, the first name that comes up to you, as great as Brock Lesnar is, and as great as everything he's done for the sport of professional wrestling, he's not the first person you think about when you say WWE. It's Roman Reigns that you think about. So I mean, if I'm gonna go at anybody, I'm gonna go at the big fish in the pond, right? And that's why I said his name.
Ah, there you go, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about, oh no, where were my questions? Oh, there we go. Speaking of the Forbidden Door, WrestleCon recently announced that New Japan's going to be there, AAA is going to be there, Impact Wrestling is going to be there. You've competed in Japan. Which door are you thinking of walking through at WrestleCon if you end up being there?
That's a Scott DeMole question. Yeah, I feel like with this whole thing, I'm more of, and I hate to use this term because of the culture we live in, but I'm a big movie guy. I'm more of the assassin, and Scott is kind of like he gives me the briefcase and the directive, and I just take it out. So that's a Scott DeMole call. So whoever he thinks that whatever door he thinks I should walk through, that's the door I'm going to walk through. I
may need to get a one-on-one with Scott DeMore at some point.
Yeah, and I'm going to give 110% like I always do to make the best out of it. So.
Man. All right, Moose, so let's move on over to our This or That segment where the fans have given me a couple of questions to ask you of option one or option two, this or that. With the first one being that Impact Wrestling has a history of having different style rings, do you prefer a 6-sided ring or a 4-sided ring?
I'll go to the traditional 4-sided ring. The 6-sided ring sucks. It's way stiffer, and it's just a headache. When you try and run to a corner, but it's really the ropes, and yeah, I would say the 4-sided ring.
4-sided ring it is. Being that you are an NFL veteran, people want to know, pancake block on the offensive line or a spear in the wrestling ring?
A spear in the wrestling ring, because I wasn't really a big football fan, so definitely spear in the wrestling ring.
That's funny that you weren't a football fan and you played in the NFL.
Yeah.
I was never a football player, and I played defensive line in my high school, so I played for all the wrong reasons. And then the last one that we have right here would be, would you prefer to be the longest reigning Impact World Champion or have your Forbidden Door match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania?
That's a good one. I would rather have my Forbidden Door match with Roman Reigns, because I think at the end of the day that would bring more eyes to the product. And I'm more of a, when you talk about company guy, I pride myself on being the biggest company guy and doing whatever would get the biggest eyes on the company. And I think the Forbidden Door match from Roman Reigns would get a way way more odds in the company than me holding the title for 4 years or whatever. I'm not a big fan of guys holding a title for a long period of time because I think that forces that guy to be stale. Eventually that guy gets stale. I mean, you're dominant, but what's the story behind that? I think, so to answer your question, I think the Forbidden Door match with Roman I'll probably choose that because at the end of the day, that would bring more eyes to the company, and that would create such incredible buzz in professional wrestling. I happen to be a part of it, so yeah.
Well, Moose, man, I appreciate your time hanging out with me, talking a little bit, answering some questions here for Sportskeeda Wrestling. Guys, make sure you follow Moose on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you find all your wrestling towns. Make sure you follow him. And follow us on YouTube and subscribe and like and share so that way you never miss whenever we drop brand new stuff. So make sure you do that right now. So for Moose, the Impact World Champion, the Wrestling God, I'm Jose G. We'll see you guys next time on Sportskeeda Wrestling.